Hi, everyone. Welcome to Who Can It Be Now? This is Marilyn Aloria, and I think this is going to be a little bit of a mishmash of a podcast episode. I just feel the need to connect to all of you. And we're going to talk a little bit about bridging space and time. And I'm going to be sharing a couple of things that have been coming through to me as a teacher and also as a spiritual teacher, as a psychic medium, as a channeler, and as a believer in all of you. So that is what's going to happen in this podcast episode. I just did an incredible session. I actually did two incredible strategy sessions with two people today. I'm of course not going to share their stories and stuff like that, but it really prompts me every time I do one of those sessions to like, oh, I want to get to the masses. And not that my podcast following is the masses yet, but let's get it there. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I want to really share some of these messages to really help people to come home to their soul and live from their heart and soul, and really be what they want to be in this world, and not keep pushing it away. I want you to decide what it is, whether you have clarity about it or not. And I want to teach you ways in which to connect to the vibration and the energy and the vision of what you desire, and how to bridge space and time with that, and ask for solutions. So if you're interested in a strategy session, you can go to marilynaloria.com/call, marilynaloria.com/call, and you can book one. I don't know how long I'll be doing them for. So if you're listening to this at another space and time, if they're not there, we'll make sure that page directs to something that I'm doing. But I really love connecting to all of you. And what's been great about it is I get to see people who are so highly conscious and really magical and amazing, and really feeling a little stuck. And that's okay. That's okay, because that's my area of expertise. To the beginning of the call is this is not a promo. Trust me, I'm going to teach you. It is a promo in a way, because I want more people to sign up for it, because I'm really enjoying it. But I'm really going to teach you something. So I don't want you to think that. But in the beginning of the call, the first like 7 minutes, I'm just tapping into guidance and giving you what guidance is giving me. I don't check in to see if it's okay with you. I kind of just give it to you. Now, you do fill out a little bit of a application questionnaire. It's not an application, it's a questionnaire after you book the call, just so I can get a little bit of information where you're at, because it helps. Because if I'm going to do a strategy session, a coaching session in like 50 minutes, and it goes a little bit longer sometimes, I need a little bit of information so that I can really help you walk away with a plan, and with knowing like what it is you should focus on right now. So um it's really the people I've had today, they're just so gifted, and all of you are gifted, but you're just not owning your gifts, right? Or you're letting what people call the 3D world to distract you in what it is that you're meant to do. And I'm not a stranger to that, so I get it and I understand it. And I'm here to help you to navigate that path so that you stop doing that, and that you start really owning where you're meant to go, what you're meant to do, and try to do it in an ease way. We think it has to be so difficult, and it doesn't. Really, what you need to do is own it, put it out into the universe, but you have to be active. You have to take action in it. So let me talk about that. So in Next Level Living this week, I was teaching them clairvoyancy through dimensions, bridging space and time. And when I started, I knew that was the lesson I wanted to teach, because what's been happening to me, and I've shared this before, is like I've been going outside and all of a sudden there's a door there, and I'm seeing the door as if it's there, but I'm outside. And I'm like, what the heck is that door doing there? And physical things have been showing up constantly to me. And I'm like, this is for what? Actually, one moment I was like, is there something going on in my eyes, my brain? Because I'm a skeptical channeler, so I'm always like looking for the practical first. And then I'm like, oh no, this is like another dimension, and they're explaining it to me, what's going on. So I've been seeing a lot of light, dimensional shifts, and I realized that we're merging time and space. And what people think are the dimensions are separated, they're really not. They're all happening at the same time. Time really gets us stuck in this linear thinking. And so I was like, oh, I want to play with these dimensions. I want to play with us creating what we desire in this dimension, and bridging the gap between where we think we are and where we want to be, and playing with it from like a perspective of, if everything is here right now, right at this moment, how do we play with our belief systems and shift our belief systems so that we can have it manifest right now. Like literally, if you closed your eyes, and I did this with them in the class, and I had them come up with a vision of something they desired, and then you dissolve the belief system that it couldn't possibly be true, you should be able to open your eyes and see that manifestation. But because we have all these belief systems in us, that's impossible. It can't happen. Time is linear. We haven't, it's past, present, and future. I started looking up all these definitions about time and space, and it's fascinating. I find definitions so fascinating because I'm like, who the freak came up with that, man? How do you know what that is? There's no proof of that. Somebody said that something's light years away, and we're all like buying that it's light years away when nobody really even knows what light years are. How do you measure light years? Did you go out and measure light years? No. So everything's a belief system. So I'm trying to, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with some of this, but I really want to introduce people to taking the brackets off their belief system, inviting in what it is, the experience they want. Instead of using time, I'm using experience. Like, let's talk about experience. Let's get out of this linear thinking of time. And then playing with what you need to do, what action steps you need to take. So when we were working with the dimensions, right, and I can't even recall the whole lesson, like I would have to go back and watch it too. But as I was writing, I write the syllabus before I teach the lesson because the downloads are so strong. Really, it's my guides teaching this material. The downloads are so strong that if I was to write the syllabus 3 days before, I would already move to something else. I wouldn't be able to teach that specific material. And it's important that I teach that material. So I usually write the syllabus right before the class, and then I jump on and then I teach the class. And what they had me asking was a lot of questions like, and I'm going to ask you some of these questions, what I can recall is what is God to you, right? So what is God to you? Is it God? Is it energy? Is it infinite intelligence? Is it your higher self? Is it you? So what is God? And the word God may turn you off. You may be like, I don't even call it God. I call it light. Whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. But first know what it is to you. And then where is it in relation to where you are? Where is God in relation? I'm going to use the word God just because it's easier for me, in relation to where you are. Because if there's a huge separation of where God is, which is infinite intelligence and unconditional love, or somebody called it boundless love today. And if she listens to my podcast, she's one of my, I'm not going to say who she is. She's amazing. I loved it. She said boundless love because unconditional love has so many definitions to it. So if it's boundless love, and if it's so separate from you, then there's a disconnect in your life. There's a separation happening in your life. So you're struggling with getting what you desire. So the first question would be is what is God to you? And then the second question would be is where is God? Where is it? And then the third question I would ask you to do is define space and time. What is space and time to you? And are they separate or are they together? And really, we've been playing a lot with space because I did space clearing. I taught space clearing 2 months ago, and then I did a second part to it because when I initially went to teach space clearing, I was teaching how to clear your physical space. And then I realized, oh, we're clearing space, and energetic space. And I believe I gave you guys the recording to meditation to that on the podcast. I'm not sure if I did, but you can check the podcast and see. I know there's a few meditations in here that might be very helpful to you. The whole thing is that I'm going to teach you how to ask questions too. The whole reason is I'm asking you to ask questions because when we sit in, it puts you in an empowerment place. If you're sitting and waiting for life to change, you're disempowered. But if you're sitting in life and you're saying, well, what is God to me? And you're not waiting for some outside source or some teacher to answer that question for you, and you're answering it for yourself, then you're taking an active participation in your life. So it's like I said, I think I said it last week on the podcast when, no, I may have not said it. And hopefully this woman's okay with me saying this. She came into my world and she was telling me how a reliable source told her she was a healer. And I said, that's great, but you're the reliable source. And I understand that we go for readings and stuff. I don't go for readings anymore. But when I used to go for readings, when somebody you trusted said to you, you're a clairvoyant, you're this. It was like, oh, I'm sitting with my truth. That's great. And you trusted the person. But the most important thing is that you're the reliable source. You get to decide. So she decided that it was a reliable source. That's great. I celebrate that. I'm like, hey, I'm all for you, but I'm very direct. I'm a different teacher than most people because I want to empower you. I'm not saying that the person who did that to her disempowered her. I don't know anything about them. But this is me. I'm not disempowering you. If I say to you, like I was doing these strategy calls and I was telling this woman what she is, and I was saying, this is what I suggest, this is what you should do, blah, blah, blah. I try not to use should actually, because should shouldn't come into it. And then it's the most important thing is you're the master of your life, not me. You've got to take what you like and leave the rest. So you want to be in question. And you want to be in questions and then in answers, and you want to answer it for yourself too. Many times people are like, I don't know what I want to do. And I want to call bullshit on that because you know what you like. I just did this with another woman I've been communicating with. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. And I said, well, what do you like? And she was able to give me a litany, like a whole paragraph of things. And I was like, I saw her career like that in a snap. And I don't know her. I'm just communicating with her in Facebook Messenger. And I said, do you mind if I tell you what I see? And she did. I didn't get a chance to answer it yet because I had to jump on that strategy call. But she said, yeah, I'd love to. Because I'm not going to be, oh, I have another story for you. But I'm just not going to be one of these people. Number one, I don't give away my advice for free. I really don't. I'm just in a state where I recognize business is shifting. The business is shifting. People really need connection right now. I like that, actually. I'm going back to a way that I haven't worked in a long time because I know I'm all over the place, and trust me, it'll summarize in the end. So just flow with me because I guarantee they're putting vibration and energy into what I'm saying. And I know a lot of times people say they'll listen to what I'm saying and it gets in at a deeper level. And it's not me, it's my guides. They work through me. So when in the beginning, when I started doing readings and stuff, I don't say this from an ego perspective, but I was so in demand and people were so reliant on me that I had to put a buffer in between right away. So much so that when I decided to do a website, my friends did a website for me. But then when I decided to do a real website, the woman who was doing it said, nobody knows how to get in touch with you. Like, you're like, and I was like, yeah, I kind of did that on purpose. Like, I was too much for me. But now I'm branching out again and getting into communication with people because one, I want people to come into Next Level Living. Not just anybody can come into that program. End of story. You have to be at a certain ready to do the work, consciousness, take responsibility for your life. There is a certain protocol to be into that program, right? To be in that program. But the other thing, so I'm getting to know people and making invitations to the right people, but I'm also really enjoying getting to know people and seeing what you're struggling with and finding out what I'm loving with the interactions I'm having. I'm not getting victims, maybe because I made it so clear, do not come to me as a victim. Like, I don't have any patience for it. I don't. What I'm getting are people who are taking responsibility. They're struggling. That's okay. I don't mind that. But they're coming to me, taking responsibility for the struggle and saying, I'm trying to figure this out. And it's beautiful. The conversations are beautiful to me because that's where we need to be. We're in the mess right now and we're figuring things out. But I want to empower you that you can figure it out in the mess. You really can. If you follow me on Facebook, especially Facebook, I seem to get a lot more traction there. I am on Instagram and we're putting more on YouTube and stuff like that. But I'm very, very active on both my personal page and my professional page on Facebook. And that is me. It's not a social media manager. I do have people help me out with certain things. Like my assistant helps me out. She'll upload things, but I'm the one who's communicating and stuff. And she'll communicate, but it's me. It's mainly me. And with that said, what I'm loving is so I just revealed a post about what I went through, which you guys listened to in the last episode. And when I put the post up on Facebook, it was a very vulnerable. I was crying. Like, all my emotions were up and I was not pushing them down. And this is really important for all of you to hear. So trust this little train going in different directions right now. And when I put the post up, it got so many comments that I was like, oh my goodness. But what's so beautiful about it is I'm starting to connect with people that I haven't been connected with before. And what's interesting about this is 2 days before that post, or about 4 days before that post, I did a Facebook Live on my business page. And I was feeling the energy was off because I was getting people going, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Why are you waiting to live your life? Why are you waiting to start that career? What are you waiting for? And when people give me a lot of excuses, I call bullshit on it. I just don't have time because the past, and a lot of us can say this, the past 2 weeks, so much stuff went on all at once that I still made my life happen. And I talked about that in the last episode. So I'm not going to talk about that now. But what's interesting is something shifted in the communications on my page. And people are starting to really come out and talk about personal struggles, but they're in the mess of it, figuring it out. I want you to recognize that I do so much spiritual studies, and I've been doing spiritual studies for such a long time, and maybe some of you have too. It does not mean that all of a sudden life is hunky-dory. It means that spirit is teaching me something at a very deep level. So we'll go back to space and time and dimensions and all of that and asking questions. So when you have emotions, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling bored? Why am I feeling unhappy? What is going on with me? What do I need to change? Not getting frustrated. It's okay if you get frustrated, but shift the frustration. Find out why you're frustrated. So moving the story along, it's too intense of a lesson for me to teach space and time and stuff. But the next question I would ask you is, what is clairvoyancy to you? What is clear seeing? And I would want you to define it for yourself. What is clairvoyancy? So again, I'm like bringing everything into questions, because why am I asking you to define it? So many times I've been teaching clairvoyancy for probably 17, 18 years now. And clairvoyancy, it's not the same. Our consciousness is shifting, our wisdom is shifting, our intelligence is shifting, life is shifting. Why would clairvoyancy or a psychic gift stay the same? They don't, because our understanding of things are shifting. So when I went into this lesson and I pulled out 3 definitions of clairvoyancy, space clairvoyancy, I can't remember what they were, but they weren't the straight on clairvoyancy. They were iterations of clairvoyancy. And I pulled out definitions because I like definitions, because I like looking at what is defined and where are we today, and how do we get to play with the definition so that it makes sense to us? Because everything we're doing is playing with belief systems, no matter what. What do you believe clairvoyancy to be? And the reason why I do this is because there's a lot of teachings out there that are if you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. Who the F are you to tell me that? Right? I would challenge almost every professor with things like that, because I'd be like, I remember studying Emily Dickinson, and I drove the teacher crazy because I loved Emily Dickinson and I loved the poetry. And he'd be like, what do you think it means? And I'd give my meaning. He's like, no, that's not what it means. I'm like, how the hell do you know? Is Emily Dickinson sitting next to you? Did you have a conversation with Emily Dickinson? Come on, dude. You don't know what she was thinking when she wrote that. And isn't it up to me to interpret it the way I want to interpret it based on my life experience? And he'd be like, no. I'm like, sorry, I don't agree with you. Yeah, I was a student. So that's what I'm doing in my teachings. Like, let's get into what it is for you. Because you know what happens then? When you find out what it is for you, your gifts grow. You grow. And then you start understanding your communication with the universe in such a profound way that when you're living your dream or moving towards your dream and walking towards your dream, you don't get as disrupted, because you know your belief system. You know what you believe. You know what you know. So what is clairvoyancy? Okay. I'm sure people edit out drinking water on a podcast. I don't. Okay. The next thing is, I remember when I first started working with Ricky and Lynn, and they were editing certain things out, and I didn't know because I didn't listen to it again, or maybe, in the beginning I might have listened to it, and they told me, and then they said, we've realized not to do that with you. And I'm like, yeah, no, just keep it real. Keep it real. Okay. So now I want to ask you what it is that you want. What it is you want. And if you don't know what you want, journal on it every day. Journal on, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And for the longest time, I was doing this myself because I was like, Spirit kept saying, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?" They were like, "You can't give you what you want if we don't know what you want." And I've been journaling a lot on it, like thinking about what do I want? What do I want? And it really helps you to get clear. And if you could speak it out loud, and if you could especially speak it out loud to someone you trust and they could speak it back to you, it's a very cool thing. So I'd been writing about what do I want? And it always goes kind of to the same thing, but new iterations happened, like new realizations came to me. And that happens because you're in the question, right? So I'm in the question of what do I want? And all of a sudden, Spirit's taking me to this YouTube video, that YouTube video. I'm reading this, I'm having this life experience, and it all intertwines and is giving me the answer. It may not be just that YouTube video that gave me the answer. It's the 5 things that I just had in my experience that gave me the answer. And you don't even put it together, and you're like kind of just like noticing them all because you want to notice them all. And you're walking around, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, what do I want? And then all of a sudden I'm leaving a message from Monique, who is the coach for Soul Finder Academy. If you're interested in that, go to soulfinderacademy.com. We give 4 coaching sessions with that program. And she's amazing, absolutely amazing. I'm going to interview her soon so you guys can get to know her. And I was telling her this experience that I had with my old college professor. I was a literature minor, and he was the one that I didn't. Well, he actually enjoyed my personality, and he got back in touch with me. I've shared that in the podcast. And he said something to me that I'm not ready to share right now. And it was so like, I couldn't believe like the way he saw me. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was the biggest compliment. And I've never told anybody. And he said it on Facebook. And I said it to Monique, and I was sharing Monique about it. And then I started sharing about what I want. Like, I really love studying philosophy and scientific beliefs and religious and spiritual beliefs. And I love mixing it with my guides and then teaching all of them in Next Level Living. It was after the Next Level Living lesson, which we were all blown away by. Like I said, I have to watch it too. And so I was getting feedback on that, like how amazing it was. And I said, this is good. So I put a lot of that in there, a lot of what I've been learning, the spirituality, the scientific, the philosophy, belief systems, everything. It was just impact into that lesson with clairvoyancy. And I said, clairvoyancy, I can't teach it the way I used to. And Monique said to me, I know. She said, when I came on the call and you said clairvoyancy, I went, oh, she goes, I love clairvoyancy, but you've already taught us. I didn't know what you were going to teach us. And it was nothing like you've taught before. And I said, I can't, because it's elevating. I can't teach clairvoyancy the way I used to. It's something else. And she's like, I know, it was great. And then, so I shared with her this story and how I'm loving like pulling this together and bridging it and teaching it to all of them. And then I shared more of my vision of what I want. And I just shared it. I was walking my dogs. And then she reiterated it back. We talk on Voxer, an audio thing. And when I heard her reiterate it back, somebody I trust, somebody I care about, somebody who has great, first of all, she's an incredible healer and coach. And second of all, she doesn't project her crap onto me. And when she reiterated it back, it felt so good. I could see it. So you want to be with coaches that can see your vision even more, reiterate it back to you, and hold it for you. And I was like, wow, so this is what I want. I felt it vibrating in my body, and I got clear. Now, I have been answering this question for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years. I know I did a podcast about, I was in my living room walking around going, what do I do? And they were like, well, what do you want? And that was when the question really dropped in. I don't think it has to take you, there's been iterations of that answer. So it doesn't take 2 to 3 years. I'll have another, what do you want? Soon, trust me, because there'll be another evolution. So what is it that you want? Get clear on that. And then close your eyes and envision yourself in space, absent of time, or a combined space and time so it's not linear. Combined space, I'm going to say that actually, combined space and time so it's not linear. See yourself in space. Like, what is space to you? What does space look like? What color is it? We were working a lot with the colors of the questions I was asking them. Then I was having them inhale it so that they could put it in their physical being. So what does space look like? And you have to use your imagination, because maybe like space is black, but another person had space by a waterfall. You get to decide what it is. That's what I love about this teaching. And I have to say, it's my guides. Yes, I'm the facilitator, the channeler, but they are the people that are the beings that are putting it through me. And I'm like, thank you so much. So, what is space? So, come up with what space is for you and then go into space and close your eyes, do your own guided meditation and see the thing that you desire. And I can't remember how I had them do it because I had them bridge where they are to where they're at. But for you, what I would have you do is go into that, see it, feel it, combine it. Don't separate time and space. And then the first question I would ask you is, where is God in that vision? Your representation of God. Again, it could be higher self, universe, infinite intelligence. I don't care what you call God. But it's the energy, the source energy that we feel gives us life, maybe in a sense. I don't know. Whatever it is to you, I can't define it. It's how can we define God? You know what? I have to look up the definition of God, see how they define that. I'm sure I've looked it up before. So then breathe. So be in that vision and then ask yourself, where is God in this vision? And if God is separate, very separate, then there's another gap you have to bridge. There's a belief that what you desire and what you believe to be God, which is what you desire and wants you to have it, if there's a separation, then you got to bring them together. So bring God, what you feel God is, into the image. And I think what I had them do was, when I asked them what God was for them, I turned it into a color and then I had them breathe in the color. So again, bringing that energy into their physical being. And then after you do that and you have this vision and you can create a color from this vision, breathe that in. Breathe it in. Breath is your power. Breath is your divine right of being here. What you desire, what you dream to be, has been gifted to you, is given to you. It is not a pipe dream. Whether it manifests exactly like you see it, it may not. It probably won't. It could, though. It has for people. It's really the essence, the energy, the feeling, what it gives to you, what it supplies to you in your life, how it makes you feel. So you breathing that in, your breath, you're making it part of your physical being. Now, here's the other part, okay? Then you want to come from that place when you're making decisions. You want to ask for solution. Like, how do I make this happen? Like, what I'm not going to talk about because I can't really, these sessions are private, right? But say you wanted to be a life coach. Let's just say a life coach. And you don't know where to start and you feel too old. Like, I keep getting people like, I'm 57. Actually, I turned 57 and a half yesterday. We used to know half birthdays in my grammar school. So you don't need to know that story. I won't do a segue. One day I'll do a whole podcast about what it's like to be in a all-girls Catholic school with the mafia when your father's a cop. That'll be a fun one. Anyway, so you are in the vibration and the energy, and I'm getting a lot of people in their late 50s, early 60s, 70s, ready to live like this incredible lives. And yet there's a belief system wants to brush up against, you're too old to have it. No. And it's not to say that that doesn't show up for me too sometimes. But I'm like, what the F is that, man? That's not true. Like, I'm still living. I'm still breathing. Go into an elderly home and talk to a 90-year-old, and they're going to be like, you're still young. I love that. I love that. I love talking to people older than me and like, how old? Oh, you're so young. I'm like, thank you. So come from, ask for solution from that space, not from the problem space you're in today. My dogs are wreaking havoc outside. I don't know if you can hear them, but I'm going to have to go get them in a minute. They are wreaking havoc. Anyway, come from the solution. I'm sorry, guys. Solution-based place from the vision of what you desire, from breathing that in, not from separate from you. It's now in your physical being. And if you don't know what the solution is, what you want to do is surrender to it, but active surrender, I call it. So if you're like, we want to be a life coach, right? So you would be like, okay, I have the vision of it. I know what I'm going to do. And then I'm in active surrender. So I'm surrendering it to you, spirit, God, whatever you want to surrender to, my higher self, my inner wisdom. I'm surrendering it, but give me a solution. What's the next indicated step I need to take? What's the next indicated step? And then you have to promise to pay attention. Okay. And you can ask for it with ease and grace. I always ask for ease and grace because I used to have such disruptive, I don't need that. So ease and grace. And it may be that the oddest thing, it might not drop in right away, but an hour later while you're washing the dishes, you might be like, oh, I have to call so and so. Why? But if it feels like it has that energy of that solution, go do it. It may tell you to do something that you don't understand what it has to do with the particular thing that you're working towards, but it has that energy of that vibration, of that vision, that space that's all together. And you're like, oh, I've got to go do that. I've got to go do that. And then go and do it. And usually it'll be a domino effect of things in a beautiful way that will lead you to more understanding of action steps that you need to take. Because in just a week. So what's interesting is, and I may be pissing some people off, and I'm sorry about that, but I am shifting and changing, and I'm not for everyone, and I understand it. And first of all, I do want to say thank you so much for all of you who do listen to my podcast. I heard that at least from 2-3 people today about how they listen to it all the time. That means the world to me because I love, love, love my podcast. And actually, somebody suggested, and I'm going to put her name in the newsletter, not on this one, that I show you all how to rate and review because apparently it's very confusing. And she's like, "We're all living out here. You need to do." I do a video of how you can rate and review it. My podcast is really important to me. I really, really enjoy it. It's going to take on a different flavor, but I still love the title. Who can it be now? Because it leaves open-ended, so much to do. And it means the world to me that it's helping so many people. It really does, because it's such a great, for me, it's such a great forum to bring what I'm learning from my guides in my life to everybody who's listening. So I just want to thank you, all of you, because I don't take that lightly. It means the world to me when I hear it. But I'm not for everyone. And I know that. I'm very direct. I'm very honest. I'm very like kick in the butt, at times. And I made a decision last week, and you heard it if you listened to last week's podcast. I made a decision to no longer speak to the people who I have to drag horses to water. I'm done. I said, I'm done. And after I got off that podcast, I think that's when I did the Facebook Live, and I felt like there were excuses, and I'm like, I'm done. And I said to my assistant, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I said in the podcast, I am not doing this anymore. And ever since I made that decision, none of those people have been coming into my field. The people that have been coming into my field, they're struggling a little bit. I don't have a problem with that. You are not supposed to have it figured out. It's okay. I don't have it. I see a therapist. I saw a therapist today. There are things we work on in different times in our life. But I love the active participation. That's why I'm loving these strategy sessions, because people are active. I make them fill out that questionnaire thing because it makes people think. When I do hot seats and next level living, a lot of times they have to fill out a thing to get into the hot seat, right? Because I need to know where they're at so I don't get into a lot of story, and I can get to their answers like that. I can get the solutions. And many of them have said over and over again, I filled it out and then I got the answer. And then they get to another thing, right? So when you ask questions, there's never a period at the end of the answer. There's always a ... technique, is what my guides taught me. There's always something else that wants to be revealed, wants to come through. So I'm loving that I made a decision to speak to people who are an active participant in their life, and that's who's showing up now. So I want to help you. Go check out my website, MarilynAloria.com. If you buy one of the classes that are on there, there's a place to put a podcast coupon. Those are the digital classes. The only way to work live with me is through strategy calls or Next Level Living. But if you, or go on my Facebook page and hear, but go to my website, MarilynAloria.com, go to classes, and you can get 50% off with a coupon podcast. That is all. I think I gave you a lot. How to ask questions. I really have to go because the dogs are wreaking so much havoc. The way to ask questions is not yes or no. Try to be in the, what do I need to know? How can I go about this? What is the best way to start with? I think, what do I need to know? Where do I need to go? Who do I need to talk to? How do I need to be with myself during this? What do I need to learn about this experience in order to grow? those are really great places to start with questions, because it takes you out of yes or no, tell me, and puts you into active participation in your life. Okay, guys, for those of you who know how to rate and review, go and do it. For those of you who don't, sign up to my newsletter list, and I'm going to show you how. And maybe I'll share it on the podcast too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This means the world to me to have people that I can share this wisdom with from my guides. It's my, I love it. I love what I do. I feel so blessed. And I want to thank all of you. Thank you, and have a great day or night whenever you're listening to this. Bye.